Humans were getting drunk 10,000 years before the first cities were ever built. Long before we had writing, organized religion, or even permanent homes, our ancestors were already chasing a buzz that would eventually reshape the course of human civilization. Most people think of alcohol as a relatively modern luxury, something we invented once we figured out how to farm. But the truth is far more provocative. Alcohol isn't just a cultural invention. It is hardwired into our very biology. It is written into our DNA and woven into the fabric of our survival. If you've ever wondered why the smell of a brewery or a glass of wine feels so strangely primal, it's because it is. We are going to explore the drunken monkey hypothesis and uncover how a tiny genetic mutation 10 million years ago changed the way you experience the world today. By the end of this video, you will never look at a beer the same way again. To understand our relationship with the bottle, we have to stop looking at bars and start looking at the jungle. For a long time, historians believed that humans only started drinking once we settled down to farm grain. But evolutionary biologist Robert Dudley turned that idea on its head with what he calls the drunken monkey hypothesis. This theory suggests that our primate ancestors evolved to seek out the scent of ethanol long before we were even human. Imagine you're an ape living millions of years ago. Food is scarce and competition is fierce. You need high-energy fuel to survive. In the tropical rainforest, fruit is the ultimate prize, but it's often hidden high in the canopy or scattered across the forest floor. When fruit becomes overripe, it begins to ferment. Natural yeast in the environment consume the sugars in the fruit and convert them into ethanol. This process creates a distinct pungent aroma that can travel for miles through the dense jungle air. For our ancestors, that smell of alcohol wasn't a warning, it was a GPS signal. It was a chemical trail leading straight to a massive, calorie-dense meal. Alcohol served as a biological indicator of ripeness and safety. Fermentation actually kills off many harmful bacteria, meaning that fermenting fruit was often safer to eat than fruit that was simply rotting. This created a powerful evolutionary pressure. The apes that could smell the ethanol, find the fruit, and consume it without getting too sick or too intoxicated to escape a predator were the ones who survived and passed on their genes. This is the foundational logic of the evolution of alcohol. We didn't learn to love booze in a tavern, we learned to love it as a survival mechanism in the wild. This wasn't about recreation, it was about calories and survival. And if you think this is just a theory, look at the world around you today. Chimpanzees in Guinea have been observed using folded leaves to drink fermenting palm sap from containers set out by locals. They don't just drink a little, they drink enough to show clear signs of intoxication, sometimes even falling asleep shortly after their happy hour. Apes in the wild are still living out the drunken monkey hypothesis in real time, proving that the urge to consume ethanol is a deep-seated primate instinct that predates our species by millions of years. But how do we move from monkeys eating rotten fruit to humans building civilizations around fermentation? This is where the archaeological evidence starts to paint a mind-blowing picture of ancient human history. For a long time, the oldest confirmed alcoholic beverage was found in Jiahu, China. Around 9,000 years ago, Neolithic villagers were brewing a sophisticated, extreme fermented beverage. Chemical analysis of pottery shards by Dr. Patrick McGovern revealed a complex mixture of fermented rice, honey, and hawthorn fruit or wild grapes. This wasn't just a simple mistake, it was a deliberate recipe. These people were already master mixologists before they had even mastered the wheel. But here's where it gets weird. Recent discoveries at a site called Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey have suggested that alcohol might be the reason we have civilization at all. Göbekli Tepe is the world's oldest known temple, built 11,000 years ago. Inside the stone carvings and massive pillars, archaeologists found large stone vats that showed chemical traces of oxalate, a byproduct of brewing beer from grain. This revelation generated a huge debate. Did humans settle to cultivate grain for bread or beer? The beer before bread idea argues that nomadic hunter-gatherers settled down and started large-scale agriculture to make lots of alcohol for communal rites and feasts. If so, alcohol fueled civilization, not a result. We built cities to keep the party going, not vice versa. This continued throughout the Great Pyramid era. Ancient Egyptians used beer as currency because it was so important. The laborers who built the pyramids of Giza were rewarded in a thick, nourishing, low-alcohol beer that provided hydration and calories. Think of your paycheck as 3 beer rations per day. It may sound like a dream, but the Egyptians needed it to manage their empire. In Georgia's mountains, Neolithic grape wine residue from 6000 BCE was uncovered. This is the earliest wine evidence in the world, proving that while some perfected the brew, others perfected the vintage. It gets weirder here. All of this archaeological evidence suggests a deeper biological alteration. We must discuss the genetic twist that enabled this. Humans break down ethanol with ADH4. This enzyme was ineffective in our ancestors for millions of years. In little amounts, it could metabolize alcohol, but not enough for excessive usage. About 10 million years ago, a single genetic mutation made the ADH4 enzyme 40 times more potent in metabolizing ethanol. This mutation wasn't accidental. It timed nicely with significant African climatic change. As the forests thinned, our ancestors had to spend more time on the ground. The most readily available fruit on the ground was fermented falling fruit. The mutant apes could eat this fallen fruit for calories and stay sober enough to evade a saber-toothed cat. The apes without the mutation were too intoxicated to operate or couldn't metabolize poisons. Humans decided to drink before we were biologically human. This mutation connects the drunken monkey to the current barman. However, human populations evolved differently. This explains why alcohol tolerance varies globally. Populations that have lived with agriculture and fermentation for thousands of years have stronger genetic defenses against ethanol's damaging effects, while populations that were exposed to concentrated spirits more recently have greater incidences of alcohol-related health concerns. Evolution gave us the ability to drink, but no warning. It trained us to find food in a world of scarcity, but not infinite, foolproof abundance. Alcohol went from accidental discovery to planned, highly regulated industry as people left the caves and founded huge empires. This cultural explosion made alcohol the ultimate social glue. In ancient Sumeria, the hymn to Ninkasi, poetry is the oldest known recipe. It's a beer brewing recipe disguised as a prayer to fermentation. Sumerians believed beer was a divine gift that gave joy and harmony. It wasn't simply enjoyable. Alcohol was employed for ceremonial, religion, and diplomacy. It sealed contracts and communicated with God. The aristocracy of ancient Greece met in the symposium to sip diluted wine and discuss philosophy and politics. They believed wine told the truth, in vino veritas. Aztecs across the ocean fermented pulque from agave, a sacred drink for priests and the elderly. Viking mead, fermented honey, was drunk by heroes in the freezing north to inspire poetry and combat. However, rapid cultural spread had a downside. The same biological drive that helped us survive in the jungle led to addiction, social injustice, and abuse as fermentation techniques improved, and alcohol became stronger. What built our communities also tore them apart. This friction has persisted for millennia because of our biological and cultural natures. When you zoom out, you see that our brains operate 10-million-year-old software in a world of endless alcohol. You're reacting to an ancestral memory of survival when you enter a pub today, not a menu. That thirsty feeling is a remnant of when ethanol meant you wouldn't starve. This realization alters everything. You are acting out a 10-million-year-old screenplay, not merely choosing. Alcohol developed us, constructed temples, and funded the pyramids. It may be the most influential technology in history, surpassing the wheel and printing press. It silently supports every key species milestone. Would knowing that your need to drink is a primal survival instinct influence how you think about your next glass of wine? Does it enrich the experience or make us feel like smart animals following a chemical trail? The evolution of alcohol is our story. If you like this deep dive into the hidden history of human origins, stay tuned. If this surprises you, wait until you hear what ancient humans ate to get high before alcohol. Subscribe if you like history that affects your perspective on life. Comment: did beer build civilization, or was it a fortuitous accident? Tell me your thoughts.